And now, Dick Tracy! This is Dick Tracy on the case of the Honorable Mr. Malice. Stand by for action. Let's go, men. Yes, it's Dick Tracy, protector of law and order.
We'll join Dick Tracy in just a minute and 10 seconds. But first, did you ever think you'd like to write a song? Of course, some of our songs sound as though they'd been written without any effort at all, don't they? Believe me, that's far from true. Take, for instance, George Gershwin, who wrote many of our best. Like most men who have made a success of their lives, he had his years of struggle for recognition. For Gershwin was born of a poor family on New York's East Side. You know, it's rather funny the way he got started in music. When he was a small boy, he had looked forward to being a painter. But his mother learned one day that her sister-in-law had bought a piano, and of course, not to be outdone, she went out and bought a second-hand upright herself, paying for it on the installment plan. With the piano in the house, George found that he couldn't stay away from it. He learned to play. Quite a number of years, he played piano for a living, earning practically nothing, until Al Jolson took over and popularized George Gershwin's song, Swanee. His music was good, it's true. But George Gershwin had to know what he wanted, and he had to stay with it through the rough times to win out. There's a good lesson there for all of us. And now, Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy and Pat Patton have been assigned to break up a most vicious crime. Someone has been derailing and wrecking trains carrying relief supplies to starving countries abroad. The man responsible for this is Benton Malice, an embittered ex-congressman with an abiding hatred for everything in the world he does not understand or believe in. Well, fortunately, his latest attempted wreck has failed. Due to Dick Tracy's warning, the engineer slowed his train in time to prevent serious damage. And so now we find the infuriated Benton Malice waiting for his butler, Wormser Crawley.
You rang, sir?
Yes, I rang. Confounded Crawley, what went wrong?
Wrong, sir?
You know what I mean about the wreck.
Nothing, sir. The two trains met head-on.
Of course they did. That part of it I planned. But practically no damage resulted. Why?
Oh, I'm sure I don't know, sir.
Well, you should know. There must have been somebody that tipped off in some way. The relief train slowed down to a crawl just before the wreck.
Oh, maybe it saw the oncoming train.
It's impossible. It's approaching around a blind curve.
Well, then it's possible, sir, that they figured out a way to detect the presence of trouble.
Crawley, are you trying to suggest that any of those swine are smarter than I am?
No, sir.
If they're on the other side of the political fence from me, they must be stupid.
Yes, sir.
The mere fact that they're trying to feed impoverished countries shows that they lack intelligence.
Yes, sir.
There must be some other reason for last night's failure.
I did everything you said. The switch worked and the signals fell exactly as planned.
Something must have gone wrong. Something. Did you hear if anyone was hurt in the crash?
The fireman of the relief train was scalded from the steam. But I understand that he's going to be all right, sir.
That's the only thing that bothers me about this whole thing. Injuring good Americans. What's his name, Crawley?
Skladany, sir.
Oh, a recent American. That's all right. I'd hate to injure a real American.
Yes, sir.
Come out on the parapet, Crawley. Look down at the valley. I want you to see the exact spot where the wreck took place.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you can figure out what went wrong. After all, you had the advantage of seeing the wreck up close. If you also see it from a distance, you can get a perspective that I couldn't possibly have.
Yes, sir.
Right down there it was. Right at the bend of the river.
I know, sir. And I was right about there. About a quarter mile up the valley. That's where the relays for the switches and the signal blocks are, sir.
And did you personally see the signals change? Are you sure that they had the all clear?
I saw it with my own eyes, sir.
I can't understand it. I can't understand it. You can see for yourself that it's a completely blind corner. No one could see a train coming until it'd be too late.
I know, sir.
All right, come inside again while I work it out on the model railroad. Maybe that way I can get an inkling of what went wrong. Now, this is the relief train. I've constructed the tracks to exactly duplicate the curve at Smoky Bluffs.
Yes, sir.
Here's the main line switch. Here's the block signal. Coming up this way is the string of empties.
Everything's quite complete, sir.
All right, now you operate the relief train. I'll handle the string of empties headed north.
I'll do that, sir.
As soon as your train has a clear view around the bend, stop it as quickly as you can.
I understand, sir.
All right, then let's go. Right, now I'll turn on the induction coil that upsets the switch from the signal light.
It worked perfectly, sir. The switch opened and the signal shows all clear.
Your train is going through the switch now. Remember, try and stop it when you first see it come around the corner.
Yes, sir. That would be right now.
You see, the crash was inevitable. Without some sort of a tip-off, it couldn't have been avoided. Well, I'm going to try to find out the reason for it, or die trying.
Well, we didn't get any more dope today on why the trains crashed than we did last night. Might as well have stayed in town.
Well, Pat, at least we had a nice ride in the country.
Yeah.
And we found out a few more things about trains from our friend Johnson Barr.
Yeah, he's a real old railroad man, that one. Mm-hmm. Suppose he's going ahead with his plans to ask Benton Malice to head his investigating committee?
Yes, I know he is. In fact, when he left just a few minutes ago, he said that he was on his way to Malice House to have a talk with the Honorable Mr. Malice.
How do you figure that, Bird Richard? Do you think he's mixed up in this train-raking business?
It doesn't really seem possible, and yet with a fellow like he is, you never can be sure.
Hey, he's a queer one, all right. Doesn't seem to like anything.
Oh, yes, he does. He likes Benton Malice, and everything Benton Malice stands for. In fact, he'll fight for his ideal to the last drop of our blood.
I see what you mean.
And I've studied the speeches he made while he was in Congress, and they're all bad. He opposed Lend-Lease. He opposed all foreign aid. He made an impassioned speech against organizing the United Nations. Well, he wanted to drop atomic bombs on every country that wouldn't immediately roll over and do everything exactly the way he wanted it done. In fact, he's a first-rate menace to the peace of the world.
Well, you'd think that the citizens of Northern Valley would lock him up as a madman.
Trouble is, Pat, that kind of demigod can always hide behind a cloak of patriotism, 100% Americanism, or some such name. Not popular to denounce that type.
I don't see why not.
Well, Pat, people are so busy supporting worthy causes like racial tolerance, and you couldn't find a worthier cause, but they don't realize that Benton Malice and his special type of international intolerance represent a greater menace to the world than all the racial hatred you can think of. Because his preachings will lead the world into war. Millions will be killed and maimed. Jews and Christians, colored and white.
Hey, I guess you're right. There isn't much intolerance about an atomic bomb. It doesn't care who it kills.
Right. And yet people like Benton Malice are respected and looked up to by the very people who, in the long run, men like Malice are trying to kill. It beats me.
Yeah, but you don't think that he's really behind his train-raking business, do you? Think of the risks he'd take care of being discovered.
I know, and yet we can't overlook him. I'll be interested to hear how he reacts to the proposal that Johnson Barr is going to make to him. In fact, I think I'll pull up beside the entrance to the road leading to Malice House and wait for Johnson Barr.
That's a good idea.
We may find out something that'll give us an important tip as to how he's thinking.
Stephen, is that you?
Yes, Uncle Benton.
I wish I could teach you to treat this house with respect. You slam around the place as though you owned it.
I'm sorry, sir.
Try to remember next time.
Yes.
So how are things in school today, my boy?
Well, of course, everyone was talking about the wreck last night. Gosh, it was sure lucky that there was so little damage.
Fortunate indeed. Do they have any idea who's behind it all?
Well, they think it's some local person, but I don't see how it could be.
No?
It just couldn't be any of the local people. They're all too nice.
I wish I could share your opinions of my neighbors. Are the good burghers of Northern Valley going to do anything to find out who the culprit is?
Well, they sure are. I heard some of them say that it'd be a good idea to organize a citizens' committee to keep a watch on the tracks.
I see. Did you hear who was to be on the committee?
I heard several people say that they thought you ought to head it, Uncle Benton.
Well, you don't say. Oh, bother. Who's that coming up the drive? Looks like some sort of a common workman. You let him in. Tell him I'm busy. I've got no time for that sort.
Yes, sir. Hello. Won't you come in?
Thanks, Sonny. Is Mr. Malice at home?
He's kind of busy. Who's calling?
Johnson Barr. I'm the engineer of one of the trains that was wrecked last night.
You are? Oh, gosh.
Well, I see you're a railroad enthusiast yourself. That's quite a model system you got rigged up.
Oh, that's Uncle Benton. He built it all.
He did, huh?
Well, if he's that much of a railroader at heart, I'm sure he'll take our offer. We want him to be head of our committee to see about stopping these wrecks.
Is that what you're here for?
Yep.
Well, gee, that sounds important. Maybe I better get him.
Oh, no hurry. Mind if I look at this model railroad?
Oh, not at all. But it's in kind of a mess.
So I see. Looks like your uncle hasn't been having much more luck than we have down in the valley. In fact, this setup sort of looks like the layout down in Northern Valley.
I think that's what it's supposed to represent.
Yep, same block signals, same switches. Sure is complete.
You work the signals and the switches from over here, you see.
Yes, mighty clever. Yes, sir, mighty clever. Except one of your switches is stuck. Now, let's see. Looks like the one that'd be just about Smoky Bluffs.
Oh, I guess that's why Uncle Benton's train got messed up.
It must be. Because he's got an all-clear signal right through this open switch.
Uncle Benton's always having wrecks. That's why I don't like to watch him play with these little cars.
He is, huh? Let me take a look at those two trains.
Oh, sure.
Yep. Hudson-type locomotive, same number of cars. And the train heading north is made up of a string of empty flat cars. You know, I'm beginning to get an idea.
What is it, Mr. Boy?
I'm not sure yet, but I'm thinking about something a fella said to me a little while ago. Something about judging a book by its cover.
In a moment, we'll return to Dick Tracy. But first, you've probably heard us speak many times about our Sunday evening hour show, which features the Detroit Symphony in great hour-long concerts each week over most of these ABC stations. But chances are you know very little about the conductor who directs this fine symphony orchestra. Well, his name is Carl Kruger, Dr. Carl Kruger. He's a man who might have been an economist, a missionary, or a lawyer. Instead, the imprint made upon him as a boy by music settled his career permanently. As American as the soil of Atchison, Kansas, where he was born, Carl Kruger made Europe appreciate what America can produce. Just as Edward McDowell made the elder countries aware of what the new land can do in the matter of musical composition, so Carl Kruger demonstrated that a native-born American conductor is qualified to direct the best of Europe's orchestras. At one time in his career, he was assistant conductor at the Vienna State Opera. Mr. Kruger has also conducted the Seattle Symphony, the Kansas City Philharmonic. He is also greatly responsible for popularizing music from the standpoint of community participation, popular prices. Don't miss hearing the Detroit Symphony on the Sunday evening hour over most ABC stations. And now, back to Dick Tracy.
Did you hear what he said, Carly?
I did indeed, sir.
Give him one of our special calling cards quickly. He mustn't get back to town alive.
And just what is this special calling card? Better be sure to tune in Monday for the adventures of Dick Tracy, heard overseas through the Armed Forces Radio Service. This is George Gunn speaking. If you Tracy fans go for real He-Man stories of adventure, then the show for you is Saturday night's Challenge of the Yukon. It takes you back to the days of the 90s when gold was discovered in the great Northwest. You'll hear of adventurers who bucked the vast Alaskan wilderness to find their prize, while other men waited and killed to gain their fortunes. You'll thrill to Royal Mounted Police, Sergeant Preston's battle against odds in his one-man fight for decency, with only King, his Eskimo lead dog, to help him. So don't miss Challenge of the Yukon, broadcast tomorrow night over most of these same ABC stations. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Following program is transcribed from an earlier network release. And now, Dick Tracy! This is Dick Tracy on the case of the Honorable Mr. Malice. Stand by for action. Let's go, men. Yes, it's Dick Tracy, protector of law and order. Before we join Dick Tracy, I'd like to ask you a question. Have you ever been so annoyed with something that you wanted very badly to change it? All right, did you change it or did you try? Because, well, I'd like to point out that this is the way things come to be invented, and the way new businesses and industries start, the way we make progress. It's also the way fortunes are made. Take, for example, the beginning of the taxi cab business. One evening, way back in 1907, 40 years ago, a young man here in New York City hailed a horse-drawn hansom cab. The address he gave to the driver was about 3/4 of a mile away. When he arrived at the address, the driver politely asked him for $5. Well, the young man paid it, but he didn't like it a bit. He made up his mind then and there that he would change this system where a driver could name his own price. The result? He started this country's first taxicab company using automobiles and taximeters. He started it even though he had to visit Europe to get the cars and financial backing he needed. Today, a 3/4-mile taxi ride in New York City will cost you 30 cents. Things can be changed. And now, Dick Tracy. The latest relief train wreck has been accomplished by someone throwing incendiary bombs from a moving automobile. Someone who is believed by Dick Tracy to be left-handed. So, following a hunch, Tracy and Patton visited the home of the Honorable Benton Malice and were very excited to discover a photograph of the aforementioned Malice pitching in a 4th of July baseball game and pitching left-handed. Well, after a short but interesting conversation with Steve, old Malice's nephew, they left. And it came as quite a surprise to Steve to hear a voice close behind him say,
Master Stephen.
Didn't hear you come up behind me. Where were you?
Just behind that door.
But why didn't you say something? Why didn't you come out when those two men were here?
Master Stephen, Mr. Malice would like to see you.
Well, sure. Where is he?
Come.
Ah, there you are, Stephen.
Oh, gee, Uncle Benton, why didn't you come out and see Mr. Tracy and Mr. Patton? If you were here, you must have heard them.
I heard them. I heard a great deal. That's why I didn't come out.
But they said you asked them to come and see your trains.
I did. That was before I realized Mr. Patton was a common immigrant. Malice House has never yet, nor will it ever, play host to an immigrant.
I thought Mr. Patton was awful nice.
Well, so I noticed. That's what I want to talk to you about.
Yes, sir.
Stephen, you realize that although I am your uncle, I am under no obligation to either house or feed you.
Yes, Uncle Benton.
What I do for you, I do out of the goodness of my heart, and out of consideration for the wishes of my poor dead sister.
I know, sir.
Therefore, Stephen, don't you think it's strange that I should overhear you expressing disbelief in the things which I hold most sacred, and expressing that disbelief to a common policeman and an immigrant?
But, Uncle Benton, I don't...
I'm doing the talking. I realize, Stephen, that I cannot expect too much from the son of a foreigner. But I should have thought that you would have profited enough by my high example not to have been guilty of so grievous a fault. And what have you to say to that?
But, sir, the things Mr. Patton was saying sounded so right.
Stephen, in my household, what I think is right. Well, speak up. Don't just stand there like an ninny.
I didn't realize how it would sound to you, sir. I only thought
Enough.
that...
Don't talk back to your elders. Now tell me, where did you get this vicious belief that a naturalized American is as good as a native born one?
From the Constitution, sir. It says that all people are created equal.
Rubbish. Means that all Americans have an equal right to try and become rich and powerful. But that's all it means.
But it says all people, not all Americans.
That was because the founders of this country had no means of knowing to what a sorry pass she would be dragged. Who in those glorious days could have dreamed that this great land of opportunity would be flooded with Poles and Italians and Hungarians and Chinese? You surely don't believe that the founding fathers meant to imply that such people as that could ever be the equal of real Americans?
That's what my father taught me.
Then let your father feed and house and clothe you.
But, Uncle Benton, my father's dead.
I'm fully aware of that fact. And don't you ever forget it. Did you hear me? Don't you ever forget it.
No, sir. I'll never forget it.
All right, then. Go to your room. Try to do a little straight thinking for a change. I'll have more to say to you later. Oh, I don't know what to do with that boy. May have to send him to some corrective school. Someplace that will bludgeon a sense of the value of democracy, the free way of life into him.
They're good ideas, sir.
That's what we have to do with Europeans, Crawley. Ram democracy down their throats. And if they don't like it, well, by George, make them like it.
Quite right, sir.
Man lives not by bread alone, so they say. But I don't believe it. Starve their bellies and you can do what you want with their souls. Oh, how I fought down in Washington and shouted and begged. Yes, literally begged to make the fools see the truth.
You did, sir.
No, they said, we've got to cooperate. We've got to compromise. You can't sell democracy like toothpaste. You can't force an ideal. Horse feathers.
Exactly, sir.
Crowley, you get a thing three ways. First, someone gives it to you. Secondly, if they won't give it to you, you buy it. And thirdly, if they won't sell it, and if you're strong enough, you take it anyway.
That's elementary, sir.
Rule of the strong. Rule of the strong, Crowley. That's the only law that's worth having in the books. Well, we're strong. And we know that our kind of democracy is what we want every other country in the world to have.
Yes, sir.
By thunder, we ought to starve every mother's son of them till we get what we want. And you and I are trying to do just that, ain't Crowley?
And with admirable success, sir. That last wreck was a thing of beauty.
Yes, but we better lay low for a while. I didn't like something that fellow Tracy said while they were here.
You mean about noticing the photograph of you pitching for the local team?
Yes, he commented on the fact that I was pitching with my left hand. He and that Patton seemed to think it was significant.
You remember, sir, that you commented at the time of throwing the incendiary bombs that you couldn't do it if you weren't left-handed.
Yes, I know. I'd heard that this Tracy fellow had rather more intelligence than the average policeman, that he had, in fact, a certain sort of low animal cunning. Guess we better keep our eyes on him, Crawley. Who knows what opportunity may come our way.
Who indeed, sir?
Yes, Tracy will find out that it's one thing to tangle with robbers and pickpockets, and quite another thing to tangle with the Honorable Benton Malice.
Definitely, sir.
You know, Crowley, I shouldn't be at all surprised if Dick Tracy were to wake up dead one fine day.
Well, Dick, here she comes.
Yep. Right on time.
It's a 464 type locomotive. Looks like a Hudson.
Brother, what a little information will do to you.
Richard, I'll have you know that I have more than...
What was that you said, Pat?
Oh, skip it. But I definitely resent the implication that I'm a tyro when it comes to railroads. I learned plenty from poor old Johnson Barr.
You did, eh? Then maybe you can tell me the name of that last car coming up on this freight train.
Oh, that's wait a minute. I've got it. It's a papoose.
You mean only Indians can ride in it?
Oh.
Oh, I imagine you mean caboose, and even that is only a layman's term. We railroaders prefer to call it the conductor's car.
There you go, showing off again.
Not at all. I'm just trying to stop you from spouting all that 464, 11-18-7. It's a mogul-type mallet routine.
Well, I got to do something to relieve the tedium. Nothing's happened in 5 days. Trains have gone through on schedule. Benton Malice has been keeping his nose clean and sticking to his committee work. You know, it sometimes makes me wonder if we may not be off on the wrong track.
No, Pat. I'm sure he's guilty. But I think he also knows that we're on to him. Something must have tipped him off.
Well, you don't suppose his nephew said anything to him, do you?
Steve? What about? We didn't say anything in front of him that could have made him suspicious. He was out of the room when we noticed the picture of Malice playing baseball left-handed. And besides, Pat, I don't think that young fellow's connected with this business at all.
He seemed like an awfully nice boy. Hey, I hope he comes to see me before we go back to town. I might be able to counteract some of the junk that the Honorable Benton is teaching him.
Yes, I'd like to talk to him again myself. But I'd rather not go to Malice House for a while. Pat, I want to lull the Honorable BM into a sense of false security, just as I think he's doing to his committee members.
Yeah, they've certainly been taking it easy lately. Not more than half of them are out on the tracks today. If it rains tonight, which it looks as though it might, I'll bet there won't be a handful out watching.
Which I think is exactly what Benton Malice wants. There's a particularly heavy shipment of relief supplies due to go through the valley tonight. A shipment that I think Malice has been waiting for.
So that's the way of it, is it?
Mm-hmm.
He'll probably drop into committee headquarters tonight and make a few casual remarks about the renegades being frightened back into their holes and that the committee has accomplished its purpose.
Right. And what with the rain falling and the cold wind, there'll be quite a few who'll be only too glad to think he's right.
Which means it'll be up to us.
That's about it. Well, are you ready for a little excitement?
Am I? I've been getting soft on this job. Handing out parking tickets is more active work than we've had here lately.
I have a feeling that phase of it is just about over. I think you're going to get enough excitement tonight to last you a long time.
Look at that rain, Crawley.
It's just what you ordered, sir.
And down there in the valley, the lights glow cheerfully through the rain. The stupid fool sitting snug and dry inside.
The seed was planted very cleverly, sir.
Naturally. I doubt if more than 2 or 3 townsmen will be on the tracks. Should be easy for you to cruise up and down the tracks once or twice, determine a safe place to strike.
You're not forgetting Dick Tracy and Pat Patton, sir.
Indeed, I'm not. Although I think I soon will be able to.
Why, I don't follow you, sir.
Crowley, I think that this may very well be their last night on Earth.
In a moment, we'll return to Dick Tracy. But first, one radio actor who puts his all into his role is Billy Redfield, star of the Willie Piper Show, which is heard over most of these ABC stations every Thursday night. Although Billy is well aware that his listening audience can't see him, he lavishes upon each line all the facial expressions and gestures that would be called for in voicing it before a live audience. Or perhaps it's because Redfield does his part so thoroughly that his performance is completely convincing. While you chuckle through the humorous situations that arise in the Piper's New England household, you're never really aware that someone is acting the Willie Piper role. Billy Redfield is Willie Piper. He's only 20 years old. Young Redfield is a veteran of 11 years' experience on Broadway and in the radio. Last season, he played the lead in the George Abbott musical comedy, and theater audiences have seen him in many popular stage vehicles. As a matter of fact, all the characters of the Willie Piper Show are well cast. So when you're tuned in to Thursday night's Tales of Willie Piper, you're sure of enjoying a delightful, well-acted comedy. So listen tonight when Willie Piper is next heard over most of these same ABC stations. And now, back to Dick Tracy.
You mean, sir, that you have a scheme for killing Tracy and Patton?
I certainly have. Come inside, Crowley. Come inside. We have much planning to do.
What plan does the vicious bent on Malice have in mind? And will Dick Tracy run up against more than he bargained for? Better be sure to tune in tomorrow for the adventures of Dick Tracy, heard overseas through the Armed Forces Radio Service. This is George Gunn speaking. Imagine a candid microphone like a candid camera catching people as they are. Well, on Candid Microphone, a program presented every Thursday evening over most ABC stations, you hear unrehearsed conversations that take place anywhere, on the street, restaurants, theater lobbies. When the conversations you hear actually take place, the people involved don't know that their every word is being transcribed by the man with a secret mic. Of course, no conversation is broadcast without their full consent. But you hear people speak spontaneously on subjects ranging from money to Mahatma Gandhi. Don't miss Candid Microphone tonight over most ABC stations.
Preceding transcribed, this is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
And now, Dick Tracy!
This is Dick Tracy on the case of the Honorable Mr. Malice. Stand by for action. Let's go, men. Yes, it's Dick Tracy, protector of law and order.
Did you Tracy fans ever happen to wonder what laws our country lived under during the Revolutionary War? From your history, you'll remember that the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, but it wasn't until 1787, 11 years later, that our present Constitution was ratified. But what was done in the years in between? Well, actually, soon after the colonists declared that they were independent of all foreign rule, a committee began work on a constitution. They called it the Articles of Confederation. Well, a little over a year after the signing of the Declaration of Independence on November 15th, 1777, exactly 170 years ago tomorrow, these Articles of Confederation were submitted to the states for ratification. This was our first Constitution. But very wisely, our nation's first leaders decided to improve on that first body of laws. They believed that those laws wouldn't stand the test of time. So, using the Articles of Confederation as a base, they wrote a new Constitution, the one we're living under today. But remember, the success of our present Constitution is due in a large extent to the Articles of Confederation, the anniversary of whose adoption will be observed tomorrow. Now, Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy and Pat Patton, in a hasty trip to the state capitol, have unearthed the first important link in the chain of evidence that they hope will send the Honorable Benton Malice to the electric chair. This accomplished, they made plans to return to Northern Valley aboard the Super Streamer, a train which is also carrying the noted South American statesman, Dr. Trabajo Polapas. It is this latter fact that has aroused the interest of the Honorable Benton Malice as he broods in the secret tower room of his castle overlooking Northern Valley.
Crowley, has it occurred to you what a blow to international cooperation it would be if something were to happen to that South American peacemonger, Dr. Trabajo Polapas?
It has indeed, sir.
Let's see now. He'll be on the Super Streamer, which is due to enter Northern Valley at 9:43 tonight. It is now 7:22.
That doesn't leave us too much time, sir. I guess I'd better get ready to leave.
You're not going anywhere, Crowley.
I'm not, sir.
No. This is to be my party.
But, sir, I thought that...
Yes, Crowley. You thought what?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm afraid I forgot myself.
I'm afraid you did. In fact, you've been increasingly impertinent lately, venturing your opinion on the slightest provocation.
I shall try to watch myself, sir.
You should. Of what possible interest to me is the opinion of a common servant?
None at all, sir.
All right, now, listen closely. I told you that I was going to punish you for your last failure. And part of that punishment is not to allow you to be present at one of the greatest railroad wrecks of all time.
A hard punishment, sir. But completely justified.
Of course. I'm nothing if not just. Now, Crowley, according to this timetable, the West Junction local should be heading up the valley at about the same time that the Super Streamer is heading south.
But that's another passenger train, sir.
I'm aware of that. Any objections?
None at all, sir. I was just thinking that the slaughter will be terrific when the Super Streamer plows head-on into that string of dilapidated old cars that they still use in the local service.
Yes, but slaughter of whom, Crowley? You know what kind of people are always packed into the West Branch local.
That's true, sir. I had forgotten.
Well, I hadn't. I'd be doing Northern Valley a distinct service to wipe out the whole lot of them.
Yes, sir.
Ordinary people are like sheep, Crowley. Somebody always has to lead them. They're completely helpless when they try to think for themselves.
Yes, sir.
They'll think a little more clearly when they wake up in the morning and discover that hundreds of so-called Americans died in the same wreck with the esteemed Dr. Trabajo Polapas. Well, we have work to do. Important work.
Yes, sir.
As I said, I'm going to do this alone. The generator and the rest of the equipment has been transferred to the station wagon.
But mightn't you be recognized in it, sir?
I'll smear the license plates with mud. Anyone gets too nosy, I'll shoot first and investigate later.
Good, sir.
And now we come to your part in this plan.
My part, sir?
Yes, I want you to stay in this tower room till the wreck has been accomplished. Don't leave it for any reason whatsoever.
I won't, sir.
Bring the big telescope up here. Keep a steady watch on the valley. If by any chance the local is late, contact me by radio. Let me know that the wreck cannot be arranged.
I shall, sir.
Under no other conditions, use the radio. I have a feeling that others have been listening in on our wavelengths.
Yes, sir.
I'll be listening on the small handset. If I hear no message, I'll assume that the local's on time and the plans can be carried out.
I see, sir.
If the local's late, send the single word no. I will verify receipt of your message by simply saying check. Now, is that clear?
Quite, sir.
And remember, it's of the utmost importance that you stay here in this tower room. Your further punishment will depend on the success which we meet with in tonight's session.
Well, Pat, how do you like it?
When the railroad gave us permission to ride the locomotive of the Super Streamer, I was delirious with joy. Now I'm just delirious.
What's the matter, Pat? I thought you enjoyed the ride we had in the freight locomotive.
I did, but I keep thinking what happened to it. I also thought that train was going fast, but it was going in reverse alongside this one. I keep expecting us to take off like a guided missile.
Oh, Patrick, you're getting soft. According to that speedometer, we're only going 110.
Only, he says.
You've gone that fast in the police car many a time.
Sure, but you can stop a police car in something less than a mile. And you can also steer it away from danger. At least some drivers can keep a car from rolling down every railroad embankment they come to.
Now, don't get bitter, Pat. I only went through the fence to see if you could take it.
The only thing that bothers me is how long can I keep on taking it?
That's the first sign of old age.
Richard, you're talking through your hat. I just want to live long enough to arrive at old age. And barreling down the tracks at 110 in something you can't turn to right or left, and you can't stop in less than a mile, doesn't seem like the best way to do it.
Well, at least you can be thankful that this isn't a freight train. The honorable gentleman down in Northern Valley has so far left passenger trains alone.
Well, I still don't like it. There isn't the friendly, easygoing spirit that there was on the freight train.
They don't pick engineers for these super speed jobs just for their conversational abilities.
I can believe that. I don't even think this one knows how to talk.
You just talked to him about the wrong subject, Pat. Watch. Say, could I ask you a question?
Yep.
Those colored lights you have in that panel in front of you. There seems to be more than in the last train I rode on.
Yep.
Do they give you information on more signal blocks ahead than the average train?
Yep.
Well, how many sections ahead does it give you information on?
4.
Instead of the regular 2. Is that because this train goes so fast it takes longer to stop it?
Yep.
Well, thanks a lot. That was very interesting.
It is to me. I hope I didn't bore you.
Bore us?
Yep. I get enthusiastic sometimes. I don't know when to stop talking.
Oh, well, Pat here has the same trouble, Mr. What did you say your name was?
Real name's too long. Just call me Gabby, like everyone else does.
Gabby, indeed. There isn't a straight man in the house.
Huh?
Nothing at all.
When you got nothing to say, don't say it. Good philosophy, Sonny.
I guess that should hold you for a while, Pat.
Yep.
I've said the same thing to you many a time. Only not nearly so neatly.
You're all just picking on me because I have a broken arm. If I had the use of my good left arm, I'd show that Gabby character a thing or two about philosophy.
Of that, I have no doubt. But it's just as well you can, considering there are several hundred passengers dependent on this Gabby character to get them to their destinations in safety. So relax, Pat, and think of the fun we're going to have when we get back to Northern Valley.
Hello? Oh, hello, Don. Oh, your mother said she didn't think you should keep Ginger. But why not? She's a swell little dog. Oh, I see. She howls and whines when you put her in the cellar. Well, she's lonely. Look, keep her in your room tonight, and I'll come down and see about her in the morning. Maybe I can find her another home. Okay, Don. Good night.
Of course she's lonely. She'd never slept anywhere but in my room since she was a little puppy. Well, I'm lonesome, too. Don't even want to go back to my room just yet. Not just yet. Gee, it's quiet. Uncle Benton isn't here. Nobody seems to be home at all. Never realized how lonely Malice house could be when Ginger was here. I know. I'll go out on the parapet and look down at Stanley's house through the telescope. I can probably just make out the light in his window. Let's see now. See, that's funny. Where's the telescope? It used to be right here, but what's this little thing? Sort of like a light socket, but different. Little wire running along the transmitter. I'll bet it goes to the transmitter. Nobody home now. Got to try and find the transmitter. Wire goes along here. Up these stone steps. The tower room. I'll bet it's in the tower room. But that's always locked. No harm in... There's a light showing under the door. In fact, the door's standing a little open. Knock first. I guess nobody's inside. Well, here it goes. Nobody here. And there's the transmitter right over there. And there's the telescope train right down on the railroad tracks. Get some evidence and get out of here. Got to hurry. Huh. What are all these clippings and papers? all about the railroad wrecks and the United Nations. Why, this is proof. The best kind of proof. What's that?
Who's there?
It's only I, Master Stephen. Did you find anything interesting?
In a moment, we'll return to Dick Tracy. But first, the Northwest Mounted Police. Just 4 words, but words that immediately bring to mind the wonderful sagas of adventure that thrill all of us. And it's with Sergeant Preston, typical of these heroes who always get their man, that Challenge of the Yukon is concerned. Challenge of the Yukon is an exciting program heard every Saturday night over most of these ABC stations against the background of the vast Alaskan wilderness in which the Klondike gold rush of the 90s took place. Sergeant Preston pursues his duties of maintaining law and order among prospectors and adventurers, and assisting Preston in his exciting duties is King, his big Eskimo lead dog. During the unfolding of these colorful tales of the gold country, you'll not only learn the characteristics of King, a husky, but from time to time other dogs, collies, wolfhounds, Danes, and mongrels, are also brought into the story, thereby showing traits peculiar to their breeds. Yes, Challenge of the Yukon appeals to dog lovers as well as to folks who go for wild life stories and dramas of adventure. So for a complete half hour, listen to Challenge of the Yukon, Saturday night. And now, back to Dick Tracy.
Say, Dick, aren't we just about entering Northern Valley?
Yes, but relax, Pat. As long as we're not on a freight train, we've got nothing to worry about.
Yes, nothing to worry about. Nothing except certain death at the hands of the Honorable Benton Malice. Better be sure to tune in Monday for the adventures of Dick Tracy, heard overseas through the Armed Forces Radio Service. And this is George Gunn speaking. Starting tomorrow, the Metropolitan Opera will begin its annual season of Saturday afternoon broadcasts over most of these ABC stations. And that means, from the operatic stage of New York's famous Metropolitan Opera House, you'll enjoy celebrated artists singing in the great musical tradition of grand opera. Renowned stars like Lily Pons, Helen Traubel, Lauritz Melchior, Ezio Pinza, Robert Merrill, and Licia Albanese. And as in the past, Milton Cross will be on hand every week to tell you the story of each opera. Don't miss the Metropolitan Opera Saturday afternoons, starting, of course, tomorrow over most of these same ABC stations. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.